Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great week. We are on vacation with my wife's family, but I had to take this morning to talk about something that I've absolutely fallen in love with, and that is this Tamron that you're seeing right now on the front of my camera. It's the Tamron 24-70. Gonna abbreviate it and call it the G2 because it has such a long name. For whatever reason, I've always just crossed Tamron off my list. I've always either used Canon glass or Sigma glass, but the opportunity came up to get this G2. Like we said, we're going to abbreviate that name, and I've absolutely fallen in love with this thing. I've used it now for my personal use, used it for photos. I've actually used it for a wedding now already, and gosh, this thing's great. We're going to talk about it today, really talk about the pros of this Tamron, maybe some cons as well, but first I'm going to go down to the beach, go to the gym, catch a workout. Let's go ahead and hop into it. All right, so that was a decent little workout, and if I'm being honest, I never really had considered a 24-70 as my day-to-day shooter. Not that it's not a great focal length. I mean, you basically have three primes in one, almost four. You've got a 24mm 2.8, 35 2.8, 50 2.8, which obviously it could be a little bit faster if it were a prime. But then you have 70, which has pretty good compression, almost 85. And I just never really considered it. Every time I thought of a 24-70, I was like, kind of boring. You know, I like the prime lenses, and if it's not a prime, I want it to be either a pretty long zoom, like a 70-200, or even a super wide, like maybe the 15-35 or the 16-35, something like that. 15-30. Yeah, future me here, and I forgot to clear my SD card, so filled that card up at the beach, and now 2 weeks later I'm finally finishing this video. But guys, it feels good to be back in front of the camera again. Really just gonna get to the nitty gritty with this Tamron. I actually have it on the front of my EOS R right now. Look at that big old girthy thing. Oh, she's big. Anyways, really, like I said, I've been surprised with the Tamron and how great it's been. I've had some more time with it now since the beach even, and I love this lens, but I'm going to talk about some pros and cons really quick. Number one, I do want to talk about the price of the Tamron. New, this thing comes in at $1,276, and when you compare that to the Sigma Art and also the Canon L series 24-70 version 2, which is what this lens is a competitor to, the new Sigma Art is $1,079, so the Tamron's about $300 more. The new version 2 24-70 L series from Canon is $1,600, so it's right at $400 cheaper than the Canon, about $200 to $300, actually right at $200 more than the Sigma Art series. So why would someone buy the Tamron versus the Sigma? I think both of them are great comparatively speaking. I've shot with the 24-70 Sigma, the Canon, and now the Tamron, and I would say apples to apples, they're all very similar. The Canon probably being a little bit higher quality, obviously, because it is a native lens to Canon, so the autofocus is going to work great. I think that the Canon is a little bit sharper than the Art and the Tamron as well. But I want to talk about the pros from this Tamron. I'm going to throw some example footage up on the screen here in a second as well, let you guys see what I shot at the beach. Number one, the build quality of this Tamron I do feel is nice. Now, the barrel on it is plastic, but I think the body is an alloy of some sort. This thing is built like a tank. You can see the ring on there to mount it to your EF mount is a metal ring. It's a big barrel, it feels good in the hand, so the build quality is definitely there, even if the inside of the barrel is plastic. It's a great build quality on that lens, and I think that's one of the reasons that Tamron was able to keep the cost down compared to the Canon. Secondly, this thing is pretty sharp for most things that you're gonna shoot with. Now, there's a caveat to that. It's gonna be sharp, not at 2.8. It will be fairly sharp, but from edge to edge, it's not gonna be as sharp as the L series from Canon or even the Sigma. I found that when I used the Sigma 24-70 Art, it was actually sharper at 2.8 than the Tamron, but as soon as you stop that thing down to about f4, that's when it starts really looking good. And here's the thing, if you're at a longer focal length, you know, between 50 to 70, even f4 is gonna have a nice compression, gonna give you some good bokeh in your background, whether you're shooting video or photo. So yeah, not gonna be as sharp as the other two, but once again, it depends on what you're looking for and what you want. Secondly, this thing is more affordable, obviously, than the L series from Canon. And I compared it to the version 2 because I think they came out at about the same time, but it is almost $400 cheaper than the L glass, almost as sharp. It is a little bit heavier, but like I said, you're saving money whenever you go with the Tamron. I bought the Tamron just because I did fall in love with this lens, and I believe it's the only one in the 24-70 2.8 range that is stabilized. And that was my point number 3, is this thing is actually stabilized. It has what's called VC, or vibration control, and the other two 24-70s don't have that. So I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of sharpness to have some stabilization, because the R body does not have IBIS of any sort. And finally, my last pro with this Tamron is the fact that it does work well with my EOS R. The autofocus is snappy, it's fast, it's accurate. Now, if you saw at the beginning of the video, the talking head where it was doing some breathing and hunting, that was actually my fault. I did not have the face tracking turned on. I had zone turned on, and I was going in and out of the zone. So you saw that it was hunting. That was totally me. That was not on the lens. Okay, so let's talk cons. And really, I have 3 cons with this lens. First off, it is the fact, like I mentioned earlier, that it's a little bit heavier than the L series, which is pretty surprising because most of the time L glass is fairly heavy, but the Tamron does come in right at a pound, I believe it is, or 2 pounds, and the L series is actually a little bit less than that. I think it's about 0.1 pound less or something like that. Nothing crazy, but it is heavier than the L series glass, and the L series does feel a little bit better constructed. Don't know how Tamron did that, but it is what it is. Also, we've talked about this as well. It's not gonna be as sharp as the Canon, which once again, with the Canon lens, you are paying $400 more for that. So keep that in mind whenever you're choosing lenses. If you're going for the L series, you're gonna pay $400 more new. There are used options out there, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And finally, my last con with the G2 24-70 is if you are at 24 millimeters, so as wide as the lens will go, there is some vignetting, and I do not notice that with the Canon 24-70. I've not even noticed it with the Sigma 24-70 Art, but for some reason, this lens vignettes at 24. Now, as soon as you start punching into about 30 to 35 millimeters, the vignette goes away. So just keep that in mind. Once again, some people like vignette. It adds, I guess you would say, a stylistic look. I like it for some things, and I'll add it in post, but typically out of camera, I like my image to be clean. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw some footage up on the screen for you guys, let you see some shots that I took at the beach. Everything you're about to see was shot on the 24-70 G2 with the EOS R. Some of the stuff I used just the lens stabilization. Some of it I used the lens stabilization plus the body stabilization, but I really just want you guys to see the look that this lens has. Most of this was also shot at f4. At f4, I feel like it's very sharp for video and photo too. After that, we'll come back, give some final thoughts. Okay, so we're back, and I hope you guys like that footage. I think it looks beautiful. I think the Tamron renders colors well. It's sharp, like we said. Most of that was shot at f4. I did use the stabilization with the lens, which definitely makes it easier because I did everything handheld or tripoded off, which on a tripod obviously doesn't matter. I'm gonna give you guys my final thoughts real quick. So when it comes to this Tamron G2, I actually picked mine up used on KEH, and they can be had for anywhere between $750 to $850 depending on the condition. Like we said, brand new, they are right under $1,300. I think if you can find a good used example, pick it up. Compared to the L series glass, no, it's not gonna be as sharp, but here's the thing, you are saving money. For the price that you pay for the Canon 24-70 version 2, you can have this 24-70 plus another good piece of glass. And that's one thing that I like to look at whenever I'm purchasing lenses is value. What value am I gonna get from purchasing a lens, or anything really for that matter? If I can get 2 good quality items for the price of 1, I'll probably go for the 2 because at that point in time I have more tools in my belt. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the Tamron. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you prefer the Canon? Do you prefer the Sigma? I would love to see it. And as always, if you like this video, want to see more like it, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I greatly appreciate it. I love growing this community here on YouTube. Glad to be back. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you in the next.